My name is Adrien Austin. I am 45 years old and I am the Vice President of Arlington Industries. I'm a legend in this 100-year-old company, having joined 18 years ago as a junior salesman and worked my way up to my current position through keen market insights and outstanding leadership skills. The board of directors has been very favorable to me, and I have led several projects that have resulted in significant profit growth for the company. Last year, I was named Arlington Industries' best vice president since the plant's inception, an unprecedented honor. 5 years ago, my wife, Dallas, and I, with our children, moved from the center of the city to an exclusive residential area on the outskirts of the city, where golf courses, swimming pools, and private clubs are available to the most prestigious politicians. Here, golf courses, swimming pools, and private clubs are all available, and we are surrounded by celebrities and dignitaries. In order to give our children the best possible education, we spared no expense in sending them to the best private schools. My handsome son Brian and beautiful daughter Vicky, aged 12 and 9, are recognized by their classmates as star students. When I see their smiling faces every day, I feel that everything I have done for this family has been worthwhile. I have been married to Dallas for 18 years. She is a wonderful wife. Not only is she beautiful, but she keeps the house well organized. She has the kids and I under her control. Dallas is responsible for the success of my business. To thank her, I often take her on trips to the most romantic and luxurious places and buy her the most expensive jewelry and bags. We are like a perfect couple, showing happiness all the time. However, behind the scenes of this perfect life, subtle changes were taking place as Dallas' commitment to her family began to dwindle. She no longer organized everyone's life in the way she used to. She started going out more often, claiming to meet friends or go to the spa, but every time she came back, she was distracted. There were times when I woke up in the middle of the night to find no one around me and Dallas nowhere to be found. When I asked, she always gave me a vague excuse. Gradually, I noticed that Dallas' eyes began to wander, revealing an unexplainable longing and desire. When she laughed with her friends, she looked as if she had returned to her teenage years. When I shared with her my achievements at work, she just nodded absent-mindedly, her eyes wandering. I began to realize that Dallas seemed to be longing for more personal freedom and space. Was it because the burden of family and children was too heavy, making her feel tired and depressed? I don't want to think about it. In my opinion, life is almost perfect now, and Dallas and the children should be happy and satisfied. To ease Dallas' anxiety, I suggested taking her out more often and improving our relationship, but Dallas was not having any of it and kept finding excuses to get out of it. She became impatient with my concern and consideration for her, and even argued with me in front of the children. The atmosphere in the house became subtle and awkward. I didn't want to believe that cracks were beginning to appear inside the family that was so bright and shiny on the outside, and I felt uneasy about Dallas's antics. But I chose to turn a blind eye and put all my energy into my work. I thought that maybe I was just too busy lately and that everything would be fine when the pace slowed down. What I didn't realize, however, was that a bigger storm was looming. My perfect life is about to face a terrible test. It was a stormy night, with wind and rain tearing at the trees outside the window and thunder roaring as if signaling impending doom. It was 2 a.m. and Dallas hadn't come home. I sat in the living room, anxious, and called her repeatedly, but each time there was no answer. The children had already gone to bed, and I was alone in the house, facing the darkness of the night, feeling more lonely and helpless than ever. At 3 a.m., Dallas finally returned. She was soaked to the skin. Her makeup was ruined, and one of her heels was broken. When she saw me, she seemed a bit flustered and stammered that she had partied with her friends too late, and her cell phone had run out of battery. I stared at her for a long time and finally couldn't help but ask, "Dallas, what's going on? What's going on with you lately? Why are you getting cold to me and the kids? Is there something you are hiding from me?" Dallas silently looked at me for a long time. Eyes flashed a struggle and hesitation. Finally, she spoke with determination, her voice low and trembling. "Adrien, I have something to confess to you. I'm having an affair." I felt that the sky was spinning and my ears were buzzing. I suspected that I had heard wrong and subconsciously asked, "What did you say? Are you having an affair?" With whom? His name is Houston, and he's a trainer I met at the gym. We've been together for 3 months now. Dallas' voice was getting quieter, but every word was like a sharp blade, stabbing into my heart. I felt that the blood in my body had frozen. I could never have imagined that my wife, whom I had loved for 18 years, would betray me and continue the relationship. When I asked her why, she told me that I didn't understand her and couldn't fulfill her needs. She longed for passion and adventure, someone to take her away from the dullness of her life, and Houston was young and handsome, but I was a boring old man in front of her. She said she didn't want to hurt me or the kids, but she didn't have the courage to give up on the relationship either. I felt dizzy. I couldn't believe that while I was working day and night to make this house work, Dallas was out having fun. What was so great about that man that she would betray our marriage and the children? I desperately wanted to win Dallas back, begging her to give up that man and rebuild our family with me. I even offered to change myself and spend more time with her. However, all of my efforts have only resulted in Dallas' indifference and impatience. Her heart has already flown to that man. Over the next few days, our relationship went downhill, with Dallas no longer hiding her affair and even deliberately calling and talking to the man in front of me. She started going out at all hours of the day and night, leaving the house to me. The children were sensitive to the changes and became frightened. Vicky hid in her room and cried in secret, and Brian became quiet and not as active as he used to be. Looking at the broken family, I felt desperate. I didn't understand how we had come to this point as such a loving family. I tried to talk calmly to Dallas about keeping the family together for the sake of the children. However, she sneered and said that this family was never what she wanted, and that I was just a springboard and a tool for her. I was too naive to think that she really loved me. Now with Houston, she can finally be free and live the life she has longed for. Dallas' words were a death sentence for our marriage. I was devastated and couldn't accept the outcome. I started drinking heavily and didn't even show up for work for days. Things were a mess at work, and my position was in jeopardy. But all this was nothing compared to my marriage. My only concern was for my faltering family and my suffering children. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just watch it all fall apart. But what could I do? In Dallas' mind, our marriage was dead, and that damn third party is still haunting our lives like a ghost, dragging our originally happy family into the hell of hell. Ever since Dallas confessed to cheating on me, our family has been in a constant state of turmoil and strife. She's been seeing that little white boy more and more, with no regard for me or the kids. I've tried to talk to her about it, hoping to save the marriage, but all I've gotten in return is snide comments and sarcasm. The turning point came a month later. Late that night, I was working late and came home. When I entered, I saw a mess in the living room and Dallas sitting on the couch, sobbing uncontrollably. I rushed to check on her, but she pushed me away. She screamed hysterically, saying that I didn't care about her feelings, never sympathized with her hard work, and that I was a total chauvinist. I was puzzled by her sudden accusation. I was about to open my mouth to explain, when Dallas suddenly covered her face and cried out that I had hit her and was going to the police. I couldn't believe my ears. I had never hit her before in my life, let alone in a domestic violence situation. I tried to reason with her, asking her why she was slandering me like that, but Dallas wouldn't listen and just kept screaming. Just then, the police arrived. Apparently, Dallas had called the police ahead of time. Before I could explain, I was roughly knocked to the ground and handcuffed. I was taken to the police station and spent a sleepless night in the interrogation room. The officers didn't believe my defense. Dallas' statement was enough for them to convict me. The next day, I was formally charged by the prosecutor with domestic violence. I couldn't believe what I had gotten myself into. I called a lawyer and tried to defend myself, but Dallas seemed to be ready with evidence. She produced some so-called photos of her injuries, claiming they were the result of my repeated beatings. God knows, those bruises were painted on by cosmetics. But the judge and jury were obviously more willing to believe a poor victim than me, the alleged victimizer. To add to my despair, Dallas filed an emergency restraining order against me for domestic violence. I was banned from her and the kids and had to move out of my house. I tried to contact Brian and Vicky to explain the situation, but Dallas restricted their freedom of communication. The children had apparently been brainwashed by Dallas into believing that I had abandoned the family. My explanations and arguments were used by Dallas as new evidence against me in court for harassment. As the case progressed, my situation became more and more difficult. The legal fees and court expenses had almost wiped out my savings, and I had to sell my property and car. The company also lost confidence in me, suspended me, and put me on indefinite leave. Colleagues had to draw a line with me for fear of being implicated by me as the abuser. The contacts and resources that I was once proud of were so fragile and vulnerable in front of this storm. I was on the verge of a physical and mental breakdown. I didn't understand why Dallas was trying to manipulate me like this. Is he willing to ruin my life in such a despicable way just for the sake of dating that little white boy? I don't understand why the law and society are so biased, preferring to side with a woman who is full of lies, rather than giving me a chance to defend myself. In the end, the court ruled against me, and Dallas was awarded custody of the children and most of the property. Not only did I become a scumbag, but I lost all my rights as a father. My career and future were ruined in this absurd farce. The envious glances from all around me have now turned into contempt and accusations. No one cares about the truth. They only want to believe what they want to believe. The last time I saw Dallas, she was outside the courtroom. She was holding the white boy's arm, a victorious smile on her face. She looked at me with pity, as if to say, "Poor Adrien, you deserve it. You were too naive, too self-righteous, and that's how you ended up in this situation." I wanted to go up to her and strangle her, but I knew there was nothing I could do about it. I was wandering the streets in a daze, not knowing where to go from here. I had no home, no career, no dignity, and even my closest relatives were separated from me. The past glories are like the events of my past life. Now, I am like a lost dog, mercilessly abandoned in the garbage heap of life, without a trace of hope and vitality. After the court's decision, my life hit rock bottom. After a long period of litigation and legal fees that drained all my savings, and even child support, Dallas filed a motion to freeze my assets, making it difficult for me to make ends meet. And my company, after the scandal unfolded, completely disowned me. The board of directors officially dismissed me for degrading the company's image. Overnight, I lost everything I relied on to survive. I had to move out of my mansion and into a cheap apartment on the outskirts of town. It's a terrible place, with moldy walls and soundproofing so bad that you can hear the neighbors arguing and the kids crying. I was forced to sell my car, and now I have to rely on public transportation to get around. I wandered the streets every day, afraid to go to familiar places for fear of meeting my old friends and having them see me in such a sorry state. I began to drink heavily, using alcohol to paralyze myself and escape from the harsh reality. I slept at home during the day and went to cheap bars to get drunk at night, day after day, not knowing where to go from here. I even had the thought of committing suicide, thinking that there was no place for me in this world. I didn't dare to see my children for fear of scaring them with my wretched appearance. Besides, they might not even want to see me as a failed father. In the midst of my despair, my brother Garland showed up, flying in from the West Coast to see my decrepit brother. He flew all the way from the West Coast to visit my decrepit brother, a successful entrepreneur 5 years older than me. For years, he had been a role model for me in my career and in my life. Despite the fact that we spend so little time together, our relationship is still very strong. Garland was shocked to see me. He told me that I was like a dead man walking, and that I didn't look like my old self at all. He took me in for a long talk and listened to what I had been through. I confessed all my pain and despair, including my hatred for Dallas and my distrust of the law, and Garland listened in silence, his face filled with pain and helplessness. At the end of the conversation, Garland patted me on the shoulder and said in a serious tone, "Adrien, I understand how you're feeling right now, but you can't go down like this. You have to pull yourself together and not let Dallas ruin your life. You have to prove to her, and to all those injustices, that you have the courage to start over." I laughed bitterly and shook my head, thinking that Garland was making it sound too easy. "I have lost everything. What capital do I have to start again?" Garland saw my hesitation. He continued, "You still have me, and Mom and Dad. We will always be your strong support. What you need now is to re-examine your life and find your own meaning. Don't be bound by those external things, but live for yourself. Garland's words were a ray of light into my dark, desperate life. Yes, why should I let Dallas' betrayal destroy me? Why should I let society's prejudices kidnap my life? Isn't it really important to be true to your heart and find your spiritual home? When I thought about this, a new world appeared in front of my eyes, full of infinite hope. With Garland's encouragement, I was determined to make a fresh start. I quit drinking and started going to support groups to learn how to get out of the darkness. I realized that there were many people like me who had suffered from life's injustices. By listening to their stories, I found great comfort. It turns out that life's ups and downs are the norm. The key is to learn to adjust your mindset and find the courage to move on. I started looking for a job again, but I didn't give up, and Garland was able to get me a position in a small IT company through his connections. It was just a programmer's job, not the same as my previous management position, but I was grateful for the opportunity. I dove into my work and filled my life with code and programs. Gradually, I found a sense of fulfillment in this new field. Although my income is not as good as before, I have re-experienced the joy of work. I was no longer trying to satisfy vanity and materialism, but creating value with my own labor. I began to learn to enjoy the beauty of life, even if it is just a cup of coffee in the morning or an evening jog. I realized that the meaning of life does not lie in the outside world's judgment, but in my own inner feelings. In the midst of difficulties, I have gained unprecedented realization and growth. I realized that the so-called loss is just a necessary part of life. What's really valuable is to draw strength from setbacks and redefine your life. Like Garland said, I want to live for myself, not be imprisoned by the past. Though the road ahead is uncertain, I have seen glimmers of hope. Starting over was not easy. I tried my best to work and paralyze myself with busyness, but deep down, the guilt and thoughts about my children never stopped. I tried to pick up the phone countless times, only to put it down because I didn't know what to say. I knew that Dallas must have said a lot of bad things about me to them, and how could I prove my innocence as a failed father? However, I can't just give up my own flesh and blood. They are the continuation of my life and my only concern. No matter what, I had to work hard to repair my relationship with them. I started writing letters, sending Brian and Vicky weekly greetings and well wishes. I told them that Daddy would always love them and that no matter what happened, it would never change. I encouraged them to be brave and strong and to believe that the future would be better. At first, I didn't hear anything back. I didn't know if the kids had gotten my letters or if Dallas hadn't even let them read them. But I didn't give up and kept writing month after month. Finally, one day, I received a letter from Vicky. She said she'd been secretly reading my letters and believed I was innocent. She told me that Dallas did say a lot of bad things about me to them, but she knew in her heart that it wasn't the real me. Vicky's letter made me cry with joy. It turns out that the bond of blood is so strong that even if Dallas tries to drive a wedge between us, the bond between father and daughter will never be broken. I wrote to Vicky more frequently, telling her about my life and encouraging her to study hard. Gradually, Vicky also opened up and shared with me her worries and happiness at school. We were like two pen pals, building up a secret world between father and daughter between the lines. Over time, Vicky has grown from a 9-year-old girl to a full-fledged teenager. Over the years, our relationship grew closer and closer. I would take the time to visit her, attend her school events, give her encouragement and support, and Vicky would often write me letters telling me about her life and dreams. I was pleasantly surprised to find that my daughter has an amazing talent for literature and art. Her essays were often praised by her teachers, and her paintings won many awards. I knew that my daughter, who was smart and understanding, would have a bright future. However, what I didn't realize was that Dallas had started to squander Vicky's education fund on her lover, and when Vicky started high school, her tuition and living expenses increased dramatically, and Dallas was using all sorts of excuses to avoid paying for them, and Vicky was very anxious that her education would be interrupted. She wrote to me about the situation and asked me to give her some advice. When I read my daughter's letter, I was heartbroken. I never thought that Dallas would sacrifice his daughter's future for his own selfish desires. However, My financial situation did not allow me to pay for Vicky's expensive tuition. After consulting with Garland, I made a decision. I would do my best to earn money to support Vicky's education. I started to work harder and also did some tutoring and part-time jobs in my spare time. Although my income was not high, I put all my savings aside for Vicky's tuition. I told my daughter that no matter how hard it was, Dad would support her through high school. In order to subsidize my family, I had to go back to my old circle and do some sales and promotion work. Although these jobs made me feel inferior and embarrassed, as long as I thought it was for Vicky, I felt it was all worth it. Thanks to the joint efforts of father and daughter, Vicky finished high school. On the day of graduation, I attended my daughter's graduation ceremony in person. When Vicky waved to me from the stage in her bachelor's degree, I couldn't control my tears anymore. At that moment, all the pain and grievances turned into relief and pride. I am so glad that I was not absent when my daughter needed me the most. After graduation, Vicky decided to get a job first and then save up for college, and I respected her choice and said I would always support her no matter what she decided. I respected her choice and said that no matter what she decided, I would always support her. Vicky found a satisfactory job and said that when the financial situation permits, she will still go to college to fulfill her dream of studying. Hearing my daughter's mature and firm words filled my heart with relief. I know that the damage Dallas betrayal has brought to this family has not yet healed, but with the joint efforts of father and daughter, we will be able to get out of the darkness and usher in a new life. During the past few years with Vicky, I have been reflecting on my failure as a father. I realized that I had put too much time and energy into my career and neglected the companionship and guidance that my children really needed. Perhaps, this change is also God's punishment and warning to me. It made me realize that nothing is more important than my family. Only by guarding this safe harbor can life have a sense of belonging and meaning. The process of rebuilding family relationships has given me insights I never had before. I began to learn to think differently and to use love to bridge the gap. I am no longer the father who used to be superior and unassailable, but a friend who is willing to listen and understand. Although life continues to test us, I firmly believe that, as long as the love of perseverance, there is no difficulty that cannot be crossed. After helping Vicky finish high school, my life is getting back on track. Although there are still a lot of problems waiting to be solved, I feel more solid and satisfied than ever before. Perhaps this is the growth that comes from suffering. I began to learn to face all kinds of difficulties in life with a more peaceful mind. I've been working in an IT company for 2 years, and although my income is not high, I found a sense of fulfillment that I've never felt before. I love the fun of programming and the satisfaction of solving problems with code. My business ability has been appreciated by my supervisor, and I have built up a deep friendship with my colleagues. Every morning, when I walk on the road to the company and breathe the fresh air, I feel a kind of joy from the bottom of my heart. I think, perhaps this is the meaning of life, to find extraordinary joy in the ordinary. Gradually, I began to have some savings. It wasn't much, but I had new plans. I thought it was time to do something I really enjoyed. I began to spend my free time learning photography and cooking. I found great satisfaction in capturing the beauty of the world through a lens or creating delicious meals with ingredients. I started traveling more often, recording the scenery with my camera. I also cook a lot for my family and friends. Seeing the smiles on their faces makes all the hard work worthwhile. I also started redecorating my rented apartment to make it a cozy and classy home. I scrimped and saved, found secondhand furniture, and repainted and remodeled it all by myself. I was so proud and happy to see what I had created. I invited Garland over to share my new life with him. Garland was overjoyed to see that his brother, who had once been so downtrodden, was now living such a full and savory life. My relationship with Garland has changed subtly because of this change. Once, when I was in my prime, Garland would give me some life advice, but more often than not, he treated me as a younger brother who needed to be taken care of. But now, there is a feeling of sympathy between us. I started to share my life with Garland and ask him for advice on my work and life problems. And Garland no longer simply lectures, but more as a friend, and I exchange his ideas. We started attending social events together and often drank and talked together in our spare time. After a few rounds of drinking, We would open up and talk about each other's past and dreams. I never thought that the setbacks and trials would make the relationship between my brother and me even deeper. I remember one rainy night when we were drinking at a bar until the early hours of the morning, when I revealed my inner uncertainty and helplessness to Garland. He, who was always calm and steady, also blushed. He patted me on the shoulder and told me that he was proud of me and proud to be my brother. At that moment, I knew that in this world, there was another person who would always stand by my side and give me unlimited strength. In the little moments of life, I have gradually realized what true happiness is. It's not the clothes and food, not the power and position, but the inner peace and contentment. Every morning, when the sunlight pours into the window, I think with a smile, it's a brand new day. Even though life goes on and trials continue, I have found the courage and determination not to be afraid of setbacks. The lost and desperate Adrien is gone. I have learned to cherish the beauty in front of me instead of clinging to unattainable things. Instead of devoting all my time and energy to the endless pursuit of fame and fortune, I have been enjoying life more and managing my family and friendships. I often take Vicky on picnics, teach her how to take photos, cook, and share my experiences with her. As my daughter grows up and matures, I feel that my responsibilities as a father are slowly changing. I no longer just want to give her material security, but also want to give her spiritual leadership so that she understands that the meaning of life is not external, but lies in the inner fullness. In this process, the child in me who longs to be loved and recognized has slowly grown up. I realize that true strength does not depend on the praise of others, but on one's own affirmation. Perhaps, through this great change, God wants me to get out of the confusion, to recognize my true self. In the repeated falls and rises, I have seen clearly what is indispensable in life, and what is preventing us from pursuing our inner freedom. As time goes by, Vicky has reached the age where she is ready to get married. When she brought her fiancé Pete to propose to me, I was both relieved and emotional. Looking at my daughter's happy smile, I felt like I saw myself in Dallas again. But I knew that the love between Vicky and Pete would be stronger and more lasting than ours, because they share the same values and pursuits, and have a common foundation for growth and progress. The wedding preparations started and Vicky wanted a simple and cozy wedding without too much extravagance. I fully supported her idea and offered to contribute to her dream wedding. In the midst of the busy preparations, it occurred to me that I should give my daughter a special gift, a gift that would make the family complete. My mind wandered to Brian, my son with Dallas, 2 years older than Vicky. Brian had been living with his mother since Dallas and I divorced, and it was clear that Dallas had had a serious influence on his son, resulting in a very distant relationship between Brian and I. Over the years, I had made many attempts to communicate with Brian. To repair our father-son relationship, but with little success. Gradually, I seemed to get used to my son's coldness and detachment. But now, I decided to make a change. I thought that Vicky's wedding might be an opportunity for Brian and me to get back together. I secretly contacted Brian and expressed my wish. Surprisingly, Brian didn't say no. He said he needed some time. To think about it. This gave me a glimmer of hope. I thought, no matter what, I have to fight for this opportunity, even if my son still can't forgive me in the end. I didn't tell Vicky about the plan for fear of upsetting her. A month before the wedding, I contacted Brian again and begged him to attend my sister's wedding. I told him that no matter what he decided, Vicky would be very happy to see him on her special day. I also said that even if he couldn't accept me yet, please surprise Vicky. After all, they hadn't seen each other in years. To my surprise, Brian agreed. He told me he would go to Vicky's wedding, but that didn't mean he forgave me. I gladly accepted his terms, which was a great relief to me. I told Vicky about Brian's decision and my daughter cried tears of joy, saying it was the best wedding gift I could have given her. On the day of the wedding, when Brian appeared at the venue, Vicky excitedly jumped into her brother's arms. Sister and brother embraced each other tightly and sobbed uncontrollably after a long time of separation. The guests were moved, and even Garland, who is always calm and collected, turned red. At this moment, all my hard work and dedication had been rewarded in the best possible way. I saw the smiles on my children's faces, and I saw this broken family reunited at this moment. I know that Brian and I still have a lot of issues to unravel, a lot of wounds to heal, but this moment of reunion has given me renewed hope. I believe that as long as I impress Brian with my sincerity and love, one day he will realize that he has a father who has never given up on him. Today's reunion is the best start. After the wedding, I invited Brian to stay for a few more days to catch up with Vicky and to give me a chance to make up for what I had missed. To my surprise, Brian agreed. He said he was willing to give me a chance to start over, but everything would have to be done from scratch. I hugged my son excitedly, knowing that we had finally taken the first step in rebuilding our relationship. At my daughter's wedding, I received a special gift, the love that I had lost and found, and the family that rekindled my hope. I know that my life is gradually coming to completion. After the wedding, the guests were free to talk and enjoy the food and music. My feelings were a bit mixed. On one hand, I was happy for my daughter's happiness. On the other hand, I felt a bit sad. After all, I felt sorry for Dallas' absence on this special day. Even though our marriage has broken up, the memories and feelings we had can't be put down just by saying so. Just then, I saw Dallas appear at the entrance to the venue. She seemed a little nervous, not even daring to come forward. I hesitated, but I went to her. I thought that since she was here, we should give each other an explanation. Dallas saw me coming. Her face flashed with a hint of surprise and apprehension. I could tell that she was also struggling with how to face me. We walked in silence to the terrace outside the venue. The night was still, the stars were shining, and everything seemed so peaceful and quiet. Dallas spoke first, saying that she knew it was Vicky's big day, but had come uninvited. She said she just wanted to see her daughter and talk to me. I nodded my head and motioned for her to continue. Dallas hesitated, then said that over the years, she had been reflecting on what she had done. She knew that she had hurt me, and she had hurt the family. She was ashamed of her selfishness and impulsiveness, and she felt guilty for the damage she had done to her children. She said that she had been waiting for an opportunity to apologize to me and hopefully receive my forgiveness. I listened quietly, with mixed feelings in my heart. This woman in front of me was once my wife, the mother of my children, and we spent so many years together. But her betrayal almost destroyed my life. Those days of despair and pain, those to the children's debt and guilt, I can never forget the scars. But after all these years, I am no longer the fragile and helpless Adrien I was back then. I have learned to forgive. I have learned to let go. And I have learned to find the meaning of life in the midst of suffering. I told Dallas that I was really disappointed and angry with her for what she did back then. Her betrayal has brought great harm to me and my children. But I would not choose revenge or hatred, because that would only bring darkness into my own life. I told Dallas that after all these years of hard work, I had moved on from the past and found meaning and happiness in my life. I have an ordinary but fulfilling job, and I have closer friends and family. I've regained my passion and dreams for life, and I'm pursuing the things I truly love. And most importantly, my relationship with my children is slowly being repaired. Although Brian hasn't completely forgiven me, I believe that as long as I continue to love him, one day we will get back together. I told Dallas that I forgave her, not because what she did can be forgiven, but because I don't want to be bound by hatred and pain anymore. I chose to let go. I chose to move on, because life is too precious to waste in endless tangles and resentments. I told her that I am grateful for these years of experience because it has allowed me to grow and realize what is truly important. Without those sufferings and setbacks, I wouldn't be as enlightened and strong as I am today. Dallas shed tears. She said she was happy for my growth and regretted her bad decision. She sincerely apologized to me and said that she would do her best to make up for what she owed her children. We stood in silence, letting the quiet of the night wash away all the strife and misunderstanding. Returning from the terrace to the ballroom, I felt more relaxed than ever. For the first time in many years, I had truly let go of the baggage in my heart and removed all my defenses and resentments. I knew that I had said goodbye to the past and ushered in a brand new beginning. Tonight, I not only witnessed my daughter's happiness, but also my own rebirth. After my daughter's wedding, life seemed to have returned to its usual calm. but I could feel that something had changed in a subtle way. The change was in my heart, in the way I viewed the world and life. I began to reflect more on my life, on my experiences and feelings over the years. I realized that the Adrien who once chased after material success and longed for recognition no longer existed. After experiencing broken marriages, career setbacks, and loss of reputation, I realized that those external things are never the whole of life. True happiness and fulfillment comes from inner peace, from close relationships with family, and from love and appreciation for life. I started to cherish every day and every person around me more. I will spend more time with Vicky and Brian, even if it's just to have a cup of coffee and talk about each other's lives. I will take the initiative to call Garland, care about his work and life, and thank him for his continuous support and encouragement. I will also be more attentive to my work, because I know that it is the way to realize my self-worth and contribute to the society. Gradually, I realized that my life had become very full and satisfying. That kind of satisfaction comes not from external praise and recognition, but from inner peace and joy. I began to understand that the so-called happiness is not an unattainable goal, but exists in every piece of life, in every choice and action we take. Yes, I've lost a lot. I've lost a marriage, I've lost a career, I've lost a whole family, but I have also gained so much more. I have gained the understanding and support of my children, the friendship and companionship of my brothers and sisters, and the peace and wisdom of my heart. More importantly, I have rediscovered myself and found the meaning and direction of my life. Now I am no longer obsessed with past gains and losses, and I am no longer swayed by external judgments. I understand that the true meaning of life lies in living in the present, in treating everyone with love and kindness, and in embracing everything in life with gratitude and openness. Those sufferings and trials have become an indispensable part of my life, and have become the driving force and source of my continuous growth. Friends, the reason why I share my story with you today is that I hope to give those who are going through a low point in their lives some inspiration and encouragement. I want to tell you, no matter how hard life is, no matter how many setbacks and blows, please do not give up hope. Do not give up the love of life. Because as long as we are strong to face, as long as we carry the faith to move forward, we will be able to get out of the haze, ushered in a sunny tomorrow. Remember, the meaning and value of life does not lie in how much we have, but in how we love and how we give. True happiness always exists in our hearts, in those sincere and simple moments. So, let's learn to be grateful, learn to cherish, and embrace everything in life with an open and timeless heart. I firmly believe that each of us can find our own happiness and meaning if we live with hope and love. Let's walk hand in hand and illuminate each other's path with love and kindness. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.